Welcome to World Chefs Podcast. I'm your host Ragnar Fridriksson, and you're listening to or looking at World on a Plate. If you're on your YouTube, you can look at us as well. It hasn't gone unnoticed that that cooking has become omnipresent, really, in media for over decades now, and especially when the pandemic hit, we were all cooking at home. So basically, public interest has skyrocketed, which presents a huge opportunity for chefs to get in that world stage and reinvent themselves and make themselves into even household names. Who knows? By sharing their passion, which is cooking, of course. But how do you break through? Where do you start? What are the keys to success? And so I've got with me here today to tell us her story. I have with me Jessica Formicola, who is not originally a chef. She's a former psychotherapist, but turned into a food critic, a cookbook author, a food judge, a TV personality, doing brand awareness, brand ambassador. So doing a lot of the things that all you chefs dream of. So I want to welcome to the show, Jessica. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, really nice to see you. I was looking at what you're doing. It looks really nice and neat and clean. And so congratulations on your accomplishments. And as I mentioned, your first career paths were not chefing. And so maybe can you just start? Tell us a little bit about your journey and what made you change paths.
Sure. So I started as a psychotherapist in my life. I went to school, I practiced with patients, and I was actually a director of an outpatient psychiatry unit at a hospital for 12 years. And I loved it. I loved working with patients. I also enjoyed teaching. I was a college professor and taught undergraduate psychology. And it was great, but I needed something for me, and I always enjoyed cooking. And cooking for me was cathartic. If I had a really bad day at work, my husband could expect a three-course meal on the table when he got home. That was my way of letting go. We also don't have a lot of family in the city we live in, and we're Italian. We're used to like the big Sunday dinners. So we'd invite all of our friends over on Sundays, and that would be my stage to test out new recipes. And that for me was lots of fun. And sometimes they miserably failed. Sometimes we ordered pizza, but other times they were excellent. And people started asking me for the recipes. So one day at work, a patient didn't show up for their appointment, and I quite literally Googled how to start a blog. And at that point, I had no idea that someday I'd be talking to you or writing a cookbook or appearing on TV. That was not my goal. My goal was just a place to centrally put these recipes that I was creating for my friends and family. But I started seeing that other people were looking at them, and I didn't even know how they were finding them. I mean, this is 12 years ago, 10 years ago, before Instagram, before TikTok, before all of these platforms. There was Facebook, but it wasn't really being utilized in that way. It was quite literally still a social media platform for people to connect. But I saw that people, not my friends, were looking at this webpage for recipes, and it was kind of exciting. So I was like, well, what if I start taking pictures of these? So my original images were absolutely horrific. They were not appetizing at all. And now I even look back at some of my old recipes and I'm like, what was I thinking? But it definitely had me embark on this journey of starting with social media, with which at that time was just Facebook and Pinterest. So I would do this in my spare time. It was some days not at all, and some days a lot, and some days when a patient didn't show up for work. And about, I guess, 7 years in, I had my daughter, and I decided that at that time I could monetize my blog. So those nasty, annoying ads that are on everybody's webpage are our way of earning income. And at that point in time, that was my sole income from the blog side, but it was enough to be a part-time income and me to stay home with my daughter when she was born. And that just kept snowballing. I kept getting more and more opportunities to do things. So I took them, and sooner or later it was a full-time job. And now we have a staff of 17 people, and we're on all the social media platforms. And I had the opportunity to write a cookbook last year. I started doing a lot of TV work probably in the past 5 years. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a crazy journey that I never expected or intended when I first Googled how to start a blog, but I'm not regretful of it at all. And I've definitely improved my own chefing skills, as you call them. Um, I'm very hesitant to call myself a chef, although most people do. I feel like since I didn't go to professional school and was not professionally trained, that I have not earned that title. But others in the field have said, you know what, if you work professionally cooking, you are a chef. So, well, it's still debatable. I still shy away from it. I did get a certification from Le Cordon Bleu for recipe development. So I have that in my back pocket, but I am certainly not professionally French trained or classically trained, if you will. But that is what my readers like. They
Yeah.
don't want super polished meals that they'd find in a Michelin star rated restaurant. They are regular folks like myself with kids at home that want to enjoy their meal and not have it be out of a box. So everyday food elevated, no
Mm.
special ingredients, still easy to cook. These aren't people that are sous videing and brining and making slurries and doing all these things. They want quick, simple food that still tastes good. And that for me was a struggle because in my personal life, I like the very elevated, refined foods that people like yourself are creating. And that was what was fun for me on Sundays, but that wasn't my audience.
Yeah.
So I had to make a decision, a business decision. Do I make this a business and cater to the audience that's already following me, that find me relatable and approachable because I am like them? I'm not working in a five-star restaurant. Or do I follow what really excites me in my own personal life and try and create these really expertly crafted meals? And ultimately, if it's a business, I had to go the business way. So I still try new techniques on my own time, but I don't necessarily publish them. And I still enjoy dining out at elevated restaurants. But my core is this everyday food that relates to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun and it's been a journey.
That's really a good tip. Actually, you gave here just in your introduction is really that to know who your audience is and to cater for your audience. So know who you are and what your audience want to seek. And I guess there are probably a space for different, an audience of chef who want to do just molecular, or somebody just wants to do vegan, or like you say, you just want to like bring it to a sort of a home cooking level, and so you need to adjust to that audience that you choose. Very important, I guess, is as a first tip is choose your audience and cater to that audience. But wow, so 17 people, huh? Because I was just going to
Yeah.
ask, so how do you monetize this? And like you got 17 staff, so that's and that really is a snowball effect from Google Ads, just like getting hits
Mhm.
and likes and it sort of comes from that. The bulk comes from Google Ads. Is that what I understood?
Yeah, so Google Ads is one of the ad providers, but I actually have an ad network. They're called Mediavine. And in the food world, there are two big ones, Mediavine and AdThrive. And they really cater to food websites and those who want to target food websites for ads. And they have a better RPM, which is just a fancy term for how much we get paid per ad
Mm.
impression, than just general Google ads. So in the and I hesitate to use the word blog either, because a lot of these sites that are really successful have far surpassed the traditional blog of me telling a silly story about my children. They're much more educational and useful and knowledgeable these days. So these websites, you make money by people getting to the ads. So
Mm.
social media has a place, and really the place is to get people from point A to point B. So you want them to click through, whether it's from Instagram or from Facebook or from TikTok. You need some sort of a clickable link so that they get from where they're seeing this gorgeous cheese pull. Or last night, one of my friends showed me this lovely cake pop in chocolate that went viral. and get them over to the website, because that's where you make the money.
Mm.
Now you can get sponsored posts too. So for instance, I've worked for a long time with Certified Angus Beef brand here in the States, and they pay me a flat rate for all of the recipe development I do and social media posts. There are individuals who are making 20, 30 grand, $30,000 per month
Mm.
just off of TikTok reels and
Mm.
Instagram reels,
Yeah.
showcasing products from specific brands. But in order to get there, you have to develop a base
Mm.
and figure out, like you said, what your demographic is, who are you catering to? And I think from a business perspective, one of the things you have to think about is how many people are in each of those populations. So if you're going for molecular, how many folks are watching that? There's people like me that are watching it because it's so super cool. But am I actually going to click through to your website? Probably not, because I'm not going to do that at home, right? Um, so it depends on how large of an audience you want. And if you're really looking for to just stay on social media, and some people do, and they're very successful, they don't even have a web page. They rely solely on those sponsored ambassadorships and working on those posts on that end. And that's a happy place for them. So figuring out how much you want to manage, because it is a lot of content to create. And now you've also got to be a photographer and a videographer and an editor and a writer
Right.
and all of these things. And that's a challenge to juggle.
Exactly. So maybe a way for, like, let's say a lot of chefs might not have those technologies under control so much is maybe to build a team. Like you said yourself,
Mhm.
have 17 people around you. So it's a pretty much like, a chef in a kitchen is nothing alone. He needs a brigade. And so if you now become I don't know what to call you. How do you call it? How do you call it? Like influencer chef? I'm not a celebrity chef, but like media chef.
No, yeah,
We're gonna name, however we want to brand it. So
I
basically, the
haven't
brigade
figured it
around
out
you.
either. Yeah, yeah. I still don't know what to call myself. I don't think there is a word for it yet. I haven't yet reached celebrity status, and I do a little bit more than food critic, but I generally call myself an author and a recipe creator. That's what the crux of what I do seems to fall around writing and recipe creation. So that's where it is. But yeah, you need that support of people because you can't do it all. And especially if you're still working in a professional kitchen, your hours are crazy. You need your sleep. You're still getting up early for prep and all these other things, and you're working late. So unless you have support around you to help you, it's going to be challenging. But to get started, you don't need a lot of fancy technology. Today's
Right.
iPhone can shoot in 4K, and that's really all you need to do Instagram and TikTok.
That's right. You can really start. There is no, like, the entry, the barriers to entry are like almost none. Just need your social media account and a nice phone.
And a phone.
And a,
Yeah, I would say probably like a ring light or something, just because
yeah,
kitchens traditionally do not have the best lighting, and that will totally mess up how appetizing your food looks. But you can get a ring light off Amazon for $30 and be on your way.
that's right. That's right. And so, to start up, like you mentioned, the first steps. Really, you can start up from nothing. Basically, I guess you can choose your pace as well. Like you could have done this just in your weekends, or if you had an hour here, an hour there, just as a sort of a hobby,
Mhm.
until going full time and with a team and the whole lot. When did you realize that, like, this was gonna grow beyond your current career? Was the success came pretty immediately, or was there something, a breakthrough of some point?
Well, the blogging world was weird when I was coming up because in the beginning when I started, they weren't really monetized. This wasn't a career. You couldn't make a lot of money off of it.
Mhm.
So there was definitely a point where I started to make a little bit of money, and then it was just kind of fun money. It was set aside, oh, look, extra couple $100. Um, I think probably 3 or 4 years before I actually quit, that's when I realized I needed help and started hiring, because I couldn't create more hours in my day. And the demand was far greater than the amount of time that I had. And that's when I very slowly started adding on people. And it's all sorts of people in that team. It's not just people doing social media and managing comments and sending out emails and helping me edit. It's a designer for my webpage. It's the tech guy that makes sure nothing breaks on the back end, because I am not a tech person. It's an extra photographer because I don't have enough time to shoot all of the recipes that I'm creating. It's a bookkeeper. All of these people that make a structure. It's a small business, and that's what it comes down to. And it happens slowly and over time and evolves. But I'm still amazed every single day when I get new opportunities to do things. I just was on a show here in Baltimore that I'm still not allowed to publicly talk about, but it was 8 episodes, and I got to judge food instead of create food. And even that was like, holy cow, look at me doing this. Like, whoever thought? And that I'm going to be on major TV judging things.
Right,
So
right.
it never ceases to amaze me. But the first thing you have to do is start.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. Post the first picture, post the first reel, post the first video, post something. I also think that personality goes a long way. You can post beautiful, beautiful photos and really cool stuff. But if you look at a lot of the celebrity chefs that have done really well, there is a lot of them present. And I know a lot of my chef friends would prefer to be in the background, in the shadows, in the kitchen,
Correct.
and not showing their face, but they have wonderful personalities. And there's no reason why you can't learn how to play to the camera just to be yourself. You don't have to do anything else, just be yourself.
Get over that stage fright and get your face out there. Yeah. And
And it's not hard. I mean, you're literally just talking to your own camera. It's different when there's all these people around you. It's not the same kind of stage fright and public speaking
exactly.
as being on an actual stage.
Yeah. So what, like what I don't know how you measure success, but like, so how many followers are you worth now? If that's a measurement you can relate to,
Oh,
or like,
I don't know. I mean,
followers, or is it clicks, or like, how do you measure that?
I think you can measure success in a couple of different ways. You can definitely look at followers. You can look at the engagement, so the percent of engagement you have per followers. My demographic still seems to be a lot on Facebook. My demographic is females in their 40s and 50s, and that's still where they live. They haven't made the transition over to Instagram and TikTok. So actually, our goal starting April 1st, our group goal is to do more reels and try to engage Instagram more. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a challenge because I'm not a millennial, and that's what I'm going for, but we'll see what happens. But you can look at that. For us, we measure success by page views mostly. How many page views we're getting on the actual blog page, because that for us is the main source of income. And the more page views we have, the more money we make. So we have over 1 million hits on our webpage every single month. And then during the holiday months, that can go up to 2 million or 3 million. And there are pages that are much larger than mine that get a lot more than that. So if you're looking for scale, something like Spruce Eats is getting about 12 million page views per month, and I'm getting 1 to 2. But that equates to, and there are many bloggers, for lack of better words, that are pulling in $500,000 to $1 million a year in revenue just from social media and posting recipes. It's crazy. And there's enough for everybody. It's a fun community too. Everybody's very supportive of each other and kind of roots each other on, and that makes it a lot of fun. So I guess it depends on what your ultimate goals are. Is your goal to get more, butts in seats in your restaurant? Is it to have people visiting your city want to come to your restaurant? For instance, like I just told you, I'm going to Paris next month, and I am currently on the search for restaurants to eat at in Paris. And I am on Instagram
Right.
looking at the pictures that people are posting and their comments at these restaurants. And that's how I'm choosing where to eat. So is that your goal? Just more reservations and more people in your restaurant? Is your goal to become an influencer and have these creative collaborations? And then is it, how many collaborations do I have, or how much money am I making? That could be your definition of success. Or if you want to be like me and have an actual web page, generally it's page views and then overall revenue.
Exactly. You mentioned earlier, that you took a decision, like in the beginning, you were just following what you felt was fun and for you, but you had to make a decision of like, if this is a business, I need to know who my demographics are and how to cater for them. So since then, like since you started like doing this seriously as a business, and right now today, uh, have there been I mean, how do you compare to how far or close are you your activity from the point when you started, or have you had a lot of adaptations or trials and errors? Any particular errors that we can learn from?
Probably trying to put too fancy of things on my site. Every time I do something fancy, people don't really click on it. But I wouldn't say that it's a failure in any sense or form, because I still enjoy doing it. And if I'm not creating food that I'm proud of, then that is a failure, right? But it's very, very fluid. Eh, Food is fluid, right? There's always different food trends out there, and so is social media. 5 years ago, everything was a static image, and today everything needs to be video. So
Yeah.
it's constantly changing, which makes it really hard to gauge where you're going. But like a small business, everything is trial and error. Everything is. And you'll have some things that do amazingly well, and you'll have some things that just flop. But I like to look at the flops as a learning experience. You take something from it. You learn what didn't work. You learned if there was anything in that did work, and then you do better the next time around.
Exactly. And I guess that's one of the advantages of like in comparison to having your own restaurant, investing in the rent and the employees and the equipment. You can't really error. Your error can be quite costly. While in this social media sphere and metaverse, or however we want to call it, actually this is where trial and errors are allowed and come pretty cheap, and you like you rectify them quickly, and your feedback is very quick, I guess.
Yes, yes, and definitely not as much of an income uh, bang as you would in an actual restaurant on social media. You post it, it doesn't do well, people don't like it, whatever. You go on to the next thing. You're
Yeah.
not losing a ton of money in that investment there, which is nice.
Yeah.
But
So do you see any sort of from that early days and today any shifts in trends what people want to see? You mentioned videos, and that's what as the format is, or the channels might change, but like are you seeing any radical change in like what people want to eat? Like we talk a lot about vegan trends now, or the vegan is something to replace the proteins and animal proteins or whatever. Do you feel that like from the do you get that feedback from your audience, or is it more of influencers trying to speak us into that? I'm sorry, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. You have to answer the question.
No, not at all, not at all. So I am an avid meat eater. So I hope things don't go in that direction. I have nothing against veganism or vegetarianism, but I do still want a nice rare steak. I think my personal demographic is not moving in that direction. So the people that read my stuff are still kind of middle America, and need those proteins, still eating those proteins. Being vegan and vegetarian can be quite costly too, and not everybody has access to the the ingredients they need to do that. If you're living in a country area of the states, you don't have access to a lot of those items that you would need to build
Yeah.
meals, fantastic meals. But I do think that there is a movement to add more vegetables, to
Right.
add more things to it. But people still, from a social media perspective, love to see cheese. There is nothing that performs better than somebody pulling cheese or breaking open a warm cookie and seeing chocolate or a juicy steak. That stuff still performs super, super well. As far as food trends, definitely looking at those I'd call them the sexy foods, not your everyday foods. Those seem to do well as far as reels and video. Something very elaborate and kind of over the top, not necessarily something somebody would cook every day, but something that looks special.
Okay.
Um,
Like what
but
sort of?
some of it is everyday foods. Today on my agenda, I am making air fryer grilled cheese sandwiches,
Mhm.
which don't
Yeah.
sound very exciting. But what I've done is I've got a couple of different really good cheeses, and I made a homemade roasted tomato soup with some fresh Parmesan cheese. And my money shot, as we call it, will be pulling the cheeses apart. I've got some really nice smoked Gouda downstairs and a great loaf of fresh brioche that I'm going to use, and dipping it into the tomato sauce. So it's a really simple food, but you can
Yeah.
make it
Mhm.
sexy and build it apart. But like if you're looking at molecular stuff, there is nothing that does better than doing like the plate smoker. You guys probably have a much more technical term for these things. When you put the lid on and then smoke it, and then come and you let the smoke out with a plate of oysters or something. That
Okay.
kind of stuff people love to see too. It's the fancy stuff.
Visual, yeah. So it's sort of so I guess you have a balance of like having something that is visually attractive or sexy, or how you say, like, that brings people in there, but not necessarily
Mhm.
why they will stay, and that's not what they were gonna make themselves. They might then look into, well, I'll do the Gouda cheese sandwich instead.
Yeah, they'll make the air fryer grilled cheese. They'll probably just use like cheddar and American, but it was that cheese pull that got them in
Well, they're
there.
pulling the cheese in there, yeah.
Yeah, that is what drew them in. So figuring that out is, but you got to know your audience. If you've got an audience of professional chefs and they see an air fryer grilled cheese, they're going to be like, dude,
Oh,
you are not a
absolutely,
professional
absolutely.
chef.
And no, and I see. I think you're absolutely right that well, probably the audience for our audience who is listening to us now are professional chefs, and probably if they're thinking of something on the same, that they are not going to target other professional chefs, but general public. So I think it's very good tips that you just gave to us all now. Is that to talk to your general public, you need to sort of make the language more common or more popular, but use the
Yes.
gests and use the beautiful eye sort of eyewitness or the
Eye-catching
visual
foods and
eye-catching, yeah,
shots.
visual
Yeah,
eye-catching shots, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you got to dumb it down a bit because there are folks. I mean, I can't tell you how many times my site is pretty basic, but I'm still explaining how to brine something, how to bread something, why something works. I mean, I've got folks that don't know how to boil an egg. This time of year around Easter, how to make hard boiled eggs is my most popular post. So, knowing your audience and being able to speak to them and be relatable and approachable, that they don't feel stupid if they ask a question like, how do I boil an egg? What's the difference? Why is my egg yolk have a gray line around it? Those types of things, if you answer them in a nice, kind fashion and they feel like they can make a connection to you, will keep an audience coming back for more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Excellent. Well, Jessica, thank you. I think we have probably hopefully motivated a lot of chefs out there to put their first photo on their Instagram or whatever they prefer to play, and start just by having fun and see where that takes them. And I guess there are a lot of opportunities for chefs to build that into their own career.
Yes, yeah, yeah, or definitely a side hustle. No one's going to say no to an extra side paycheck, right? So,
Exactly.
but and I encourage anybody that does this, please shoot me a message on Instagram or TikTok, and I'd be happy to follow you and help support you, and give you your first thumbs up on a
Yeah.
sexy cheese pull.
Thanks, Jessica. We'll be posting on the podcast. We'll be posting some links to your work so people can see your approach, and it's really some amazing, nice photos. Actually, this is the first thing you see.
Thank you.
It's quite clean and nice, and there are beautiful photos, and it's beautifully presented. So it's eye catching, and so a good inspiration for us all. So thank you for that, and we'll share that with you guys. And Jessica, I want to thank you for being on the show. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
And hopefully we'll catch up soon. I will be following you on the social media, and don't hesitate to follow us. So I want to say,
I will.
Same to everybody listening to us. Don't hesitate, if you like the podcast, give us a like and follow us. Don't forget to create your World Chefs account to follow other educational seminars, webinars, all upskilling and interesting resources for us chefs there. And don't miss the podcast with Jessica in particular, if you want to try to break into the media and see if you can maybe learn, either, as Jessica said, a side. It could be another dollar on the side, or it can be a career move for good. So it's all there, up to you guys. And so I want to thank you for staying tuned, and don't forget to subscribe. You're listening to World on a Plate. This is the World Chef Podcast, and I'm your host, Ragnar Fredriksson. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jessica. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.